Hey everybody, we are going to learn about compound inequalities. This is my first time making a video this year for you guys, so it'll be interesting to see how it works. Either way, this is what I intend to do as we continue on through the year once I figure out a better routine for everything. But either way, we're going to talk about compound inequalities. First, we need to ask ourselves, what are compound inequalities? Compound inequalities are situations where we're looking at a range of numbers, but there's limits to those. So we've already talked about inequalities being like, we say like x is less than or equal to 3. And so we'd find 3 on a graph, or we'd create 3 on a graph, and then we'd shade everything less than 3. Compound inequalities look something like this. We might as well hang out with the number 3 a little bit. We'll have something like this where I have 0, 1 through 6, and then we'll go from there. So when we look at this, we'll say something like x is greater than or equal to 1, but less than 5. And a compound inequality will describe all of those numbers that include 1 but are less than 5. Does that make sense? So we need to figure out how to, 1, write these things, and 2, graph these things, and 3, how to solve them when it's not overly easily solvable. So let's play around with this. We'll start first with writing them. So we can look at compound inequalities and we could see things like this. All real numbers less than 6 and greater than or equal to, let's say greater than or equal to -2. So something like this, we have to look at it and sort of dissect it. We need to say, okay, we're looking at all real numbers, so we can just say that's x, okay, all real numbers. We just need to put a variable to it. Then we need to think about, okay, we need to write this less than 6. Okay, so all of these numbers have to be less than 6, and greater than or equal to -2, greater than or equal to -2. Now to check my work, I can then say, okay, I need to make sure I have a less than symbol with the 6. This x is less than the 6. That smaller side of that inequality is less than 6. And the greater than or equal to -2. So I can see that the bigger side of that inequality is pointed to the x. So we can say it's greater than or equal to the -2. So that's sort of a crash course in how to write them. Now, how to graph them, that's probably the easiest part. You guys have already gotten pretty good at graphing. I'm just going to create my number line, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just going to set some boundaries here so I can see how this is sort of shaping up, and I totally screwed up, -2 and 6. And now I can create my number line. I have less than or equal to, so I'm going to do a solid circle, a less than, or yeah, whatever, greater than or equal to and a less than. And I'm going to shade everything inside. Now I keep showing you ones that shade everything inside, and you're probably thinking, well, does it ever happen that we're going to shade stuff that's outside? Yeah, that's the next video. It'll be great. All right, so last but not least, we're going to solve a couple of compound inequalities because they're not always written nice and easy to graph. So we sometimes have to do a little bit of work. And that's where people sort of start to hyperventilate a little bit. We will see something like this. This is probably the most basic that you'll see. 4 is less than or equal to x plus 2, which is less than or equal to 8. Super basic, okay? And I say super basic because it's one move that we need to make. But because there's technically 3 parts to this, there's one part here, one part here, and one part here, we essentially, if you remember, I always draw a line through my equal signs or my inequalities. I'm going to have to do work on all three of these parts to get x by itself. That will be my ultimate goal. Just like with any inequality or just like with any equation, I'm just trying to solve for x. So what do I need to do? I need to subtract 2. If I subtract 2 from here, I need to keep everything balanced. So I'm going to subtract 2 from here and 2 from here. Easy peasy. So then after that, I can say 4 minus 2 is 2. I still have my less than sign because I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number. I still have my x, still have the less than or equal to sign. 8 minus 2 is 6. So my final answer is 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 6. Final answer, it's all done. We're going to do one more that's a little more complicated so you can see how difficult they can become. And then I will set you free to watch the next video. So a couple of observations I make. It looks like I'm going to be doing 2 steps. I'm going to need to subtract by 3 and divide by 2. As well, I have a less than or equal to and a less than sign. So I have 2 different funky signs that I'm going to have to pay attention to with this. This is still what's called an and inequality, and we need to talk about that just briefly. This is an and inequality because I can write this all, and if you look at these inequality signs, they're pointing in the same direction. They're both pointing towards me. That means if I were to graph this, I'm going to be graphing the intersection of these 2 scenarios. This scenario here, and then this scenario here. I'm going to be graphing sort of the intersection of those. We're going to also look at what's called or inequalities in the next video, where we're going to look at how to deal with them on the opposite side. So to start out with, I'm going to take the easiest step first. I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. And when I say both sides, I really mean 3 sides. So negative 5 minus 3, that gets me, what is that, negative 8. I still have my less than or equal to sign. 2 x's here because that 3 disappears. I have a less than sign. 9 minus 3 is 6. Last step, I need to get x all by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2 on everything. And notice I'm not dividing by a negative 2, which is nice. If I was dividing by a negative 2, I would need to flip all of these inequalities. So I get negative 4 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 3. So if I wanted to write that super clear and not have it be so spread out, negative 4 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 3. So thinking about this, if I were to graph it, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, negative 4. I'm going to do a closed circle here, an open circle here, and I'm talking about everything in between. Okay, everything in between. All right. That was the first video. That's our and inequalities. And have at it. Enjoy. Bye, guys.